Welcome to my 2023 season predictions. We're going to keep it short, sweet. Got a couple segments here, and let's start it out with driver flop of the year. And this is tough. I hate to say it, but it's got to be Yuki Tsunoda. One of my favorite drivers, but I don't think he's shown enough improvement since he's been in F1. With Pierre leaving the team, he needs to step up as the primary driver, the team captain, and I don't think he'll do it. I think he will show little to no improvement from last year. De Vries is coming in. I rate De Vries. He's going to come in swinging, and I think Yuki's going to collapse. They're going to have a really tough car package this year, and I think it's going to be a mess down at AlphaTauri. Next up, I have most dramatic moment of the year, and that is Checo Perez leaves Red Bull at the end of the season or in the middle, which is a hot, hot, hot take because he's that established number two driver. But I think there's a reason why, and that is Ferrari will have elevated pace this year, and Red Bull's going to need to scavenge every single point they can. And with Checo being miles off the pace of Max, I think they're going to be looking for a new driver in that number two Red Bull seat who's a bit more competitive. Will they look to Daniel Ricciardo? Will they look to AlphaTauri, bring up Yuki or De Vries? Time will tell, but that is my most dramatic moment of the season. For the constructors title, I'm going with Ferrari. They stated that over the winter break, they're prioritizing reliability with the gearbox and race strategy improvements team wise. And I think if they figure these two things out, they will be right back in the fight with Red Bull, similar to how they were in the season last year, in the beginning of the season last year. Um, and if they can tweak a couple of things like tire deg, just race pace overall, they're going to be killing it. They have two great drivers with Charles and Carlos. And with Checo off the pace, I could see them narrowly taking the cake from Red Bull, but it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a fight all the way through the season for constructors. During testing, the team looked humbly confident, and I think it's going to be a great battle throughout the season. Looking forward to it. Prediction Ferrari, boom. Going down in order through the rest of the field, in second place, I have Red Bull. For what I mentioned earlier, they're going to have a very, very fast car, but Checo's going to slump. They're going to be close. They're going to be very, very close, but I think Ferrari barely takes the upset for the win with a slightly slower car, but a better group of drivers. Third place, I have Mercedes. I think they're still going to be playing catch up this year. They've stated that they think they will be a little bit behind, but they're sticking to the no side pods. So we will see the upgrades coming in this year, see what they have for us. I think they'll get more competitive as the season goes on, but they're not going to be in a title fight similar to last year. Number four, top of the midfield, I'm going with Aston Martin, which I know is a popular pick after testing, but they're looking good. They're looking really good. There's great vibes in the team, new factory, new driver in Fernando Alonso. I think having Lance out for the first couple races is going to be tough to get in the swing of things, but I think they're going to have a very fast car. They're definitely not going to be in the top three, but top of the midfield for sure. In number five, I have Alpine, which I would rate them higher, and I think they have a better looking car than what testing showed, but I think their car is going to be very track dependent. It looked extremely stiff during testing, so I think street courses and those other bumpy tracks are going to be a mess for them, and it was why I think Aston Martin is going to narrowly beat them. I think it's also going to be very close, but they're going to have a little bit more consistency than Alpine. Next up, I have McLaren in the sixth spot. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they looked during testing. I know they're starting off rough again this year, but they said they will have some upgrades during the first race. So I'm confident that they're not going to sink too far down, but it is going to be a rough start to the season. In seventh place, I have Alfa Romeo. Looked extremely strong during testing, but I think it's a little bit overhyped. They're known to try super hard during testing and top those times every once in a while, but I think they're going to have a good car, but not making the strides that some people are saying they're going to make. So just kind of rounding out middle of the pack midfield, but I think they are going to be competitive. I think overall this midfield is going to be extremely tight, and it'll be fun to watch them this year. In the eighth spot, I have Haas, which was kind of hard for me to place Haas because there's a lot of unknowns. I think their driver lineup is better this year without having Mick in there, but I think they're not going to have any crazy races. I think they're going to be quietly consistent and not make huge strides from last year. I don't know. It's hard to say. I was in between Haas, but I think they're gonna be more reliable. But yeah, nothing too crazy from them. Next up, Williams. I wish I could say more. I think their car doesn't look crazy good. I think Alex is gonna make the most of it though. Sargent, I feel like though, is gonna be on the back foot coming in as a rookie in a tough car. It'll be interesting to see. They're getting those sponsors. They're getting more towards the budget cap. So I'm gonna keep my eye out on Williams. And number 10 at the very bottom, we have AlphaTauri, which looked horrendous during testing. It'll be interesting if they do this bad, what Red Bull has in their future, if they're gonna sell the team, give it to someone like Andretti or others that are interested in getting into F1. But I just don't see why Red Bull still has this team just to promote a clothing brand. They could do that with Max and Checo on the main car. So I just feel like they're kind of forgetting about it. They're not using AlphaTauri to its best ability because it's kind of on the back foot. It's the second thought of the Red Bull organization. So that's why they're at number 10. For the driver's title, I can confidently pick Max Verstappen on the top step, number 1. There's no negative to look at with this guy. I think he's gonna carry everything he had last season into this season. Red Bull look like they've even made improvements on their car. They look the best during testing, and with Checo off the pace, no one's gonna be able to compete with him inside the team. I think his next two closest competitors, Charles Leclerc and Carlos, are gonna be too even on points for Ferrari to make a call of who to favor. So I think it's gonna be a little bit closer than last year, but still, I think Max Verstappen taking the cake, another world championship in the bag. Going down from there, number 2, I'm gonna have Charles Leclerc narrowly beating out Carlos. I think they're gonna be extremely close, like I mentioned before, and it's gonna be hard for Ferrari to pick a number 1 driver. And 4th, I have George in the Mercedes, which I think he's gonna have another good season. Um, 5th, I have Checo. Like I mentioned, I think he's gonna have a tough season this year and possibly be losing a seat at the end of the year. In 6th place, I have Lewis Hamilton, which is also going to have a tough year and getting beaten by his teammate George. I think, like we saw with George last year, he did perform very well with this car. I think it helped coming in to the Mercedes team at this year and not having that previous experience with their old car. And I think Lewis is going to make some mistakes. It's not going to be too crazy, but it's going to have him float down the list a little bit because it's going to be very close up there. In 7th, I have Fernando. Top of the midfield, I picked Aston Martin, so it makes sense that Fernando is going to be up there because I do think he's going to outscore Lance easily. In 8th, I have Pierre Gasly narrowly beating his teammate Esteban Ocon, who is in 9th place. I rate Pierre a lot as a driver, and I think he's going to come in a little bit slow, but once he gets used to this Alpine, he's going to go off. I would love to see him go crazy, and he's going to beat Esteban barely. In the 10th spot, I have Stroll pretty far down the list because I think he's going to miss the first 2 to 3 races, and more on that later with who he's getting replaced by. But it's going to be catch up during the beginning of the season for Lance, and that's why he's floated down a little bit with the Aston Martin car. In 11th place, I have Lando Norris, who I think is going to make the most out of that McLaren. I think it's going to be rough, but I think he will get up there during some of the races that they can pull a car together for. It kills me because I wish McLaren would give him a car to compete at the top. In 12th place, I have Guan Yu Zhou, who last year he did finish under Bottas, but it's because he got the worst end of their reliability issues. I think he killed it last year, and I think he's only going to improve this year. In 13th, I have Oscar Piastri, which I think will do well this season. I know a lot of people have pressure on him and think he will not perform as well, but I think he will have a slow start. He's a rookie, but I think he will quickly get up to speed. And as the McLaren package gets better over the year, so will he. In 14th, I have Kevin Magnussen. I think it's going to be another solid year for Kevin. Nothing too crazy. The Haas isn't going to be a super standout car, and he won't get any crazy standout results, but he'll be consistent. He'll be fighting the midfield pretty hard. You know, Kevin loves to fight, so it'll be interesting to watch him. Right under him, I have Bottas in 15th, a little bit down from his teammate. I think Bottas is going to take this year more casually. He's getting older, and his competitiveness is almost dropping a little bit. But I think he'll have a little bit. I think he's going to have a couple mistakes, but overall be pretty consistent. Nothing too crazy, nothing too horrible. Right under him in 16th, I have Alex Albon, which is going to be in the Williams, which is going to be a tough package to drive. But of course, Alex is now getting used to the Williams team, and he will make the most out of it. Under him, I have Nico Hulkenberg, which is farther down the list than I think most people would put him. But I think because he's been out of F1 for a little bit, and he's on the older side, new team, it's gonna be a little bit rough for him. I think he's gonna be a bit off the pace, but he's probably gonna be Mr. Consistency. That's what he was before. He can be quick, but like the Haas isn't going to give him anything too crazy to work with. So that's why he's kind of floated down. In 18th place, I have De Vries. In 19th, Yuki. So you can see De Vries beating Yuki Tsunoda. I think De Vries is going to come in firing. Like I mentioned, Yuki is my flop of the year. So he's gone down. In 20th place, I have Drugovich, which is probably one of my hottest takes on here, because I think Drugovich will race in the first 2 to 3 races, with Lance's absence. I think he's going to score some decent points, and that's why in 21 I have Logan Sargent, who in the Williams as a rookie is going to struggle very hard to get points. I think it's going to be kind of like a Mick Schumacher scenario where a couple times he gets close to the points and then makes the mistake and will have a very rough rookie year, which kills me to say because he is the first American driver in a while. And I am, as you can hear, from America. So tough to say, but those are my driver predictions. That's it. Thank you for watching. Let me know things you would change, things I missed, anything, your predictions, drop them down in the comments. Thank you for watching. Peace.